The Houston Texans were one of the NFL's most promising young teams, but recently, they've been on a steep downward trend. This team had star talent, star players, and big-time production, but for some reason, that hasn't been enough for the Houston Texans, or at least for Bill O'Brien. Ever since Bill O'Brien has become the GM of the Houston Texans, this team has struggled to have an identity, not only on the football field, but off of the football field. They've traded star player after star player. Watching Pro Bowlers leave your team is not fun, especially when you look at the return that these star players are netting compared to the rest of the league. Let's go back to Bill O'Brien trading Dwayne Brown. You know what? That's a little too far gone. Let's go back to Bill O'Brien trading Jadeveon Clowney. Very hyped prospect, freak athlete, productive player on the football field. But for some reason, Bill O'Brien and Clowney couldn't see eye to eye. Clowney ends up being traded for a third-round pick. A third-round pick is all the Houston Texans received for Jadeveon Clowney. This was the number 1 overall pick in 2014. He had 29 sacks through his first 5 years in Houston. While Clowney didn't live up to the status of the number 1 pick, he has been a productive and very good player in the NFL. Remember when I didn't want to talk about the Dwayne Brown trade? Well, let's go ahead and get that out of the way. When the Texans traded Dwayne Brown, it left a hole on their offensive line. And this hole on the Texans offensive line, it's been glaring for some time, at least until they got Tunsil. But you wonder, what did the Texans have to give up to get Tunsil? The replacement for Dwayne Brown, essentially. Don't get me wrong, Tunsil is a spectacular player, but they gave Miami 2 first-round picks and a second-round pick for Tunsil and Kenny Stills. They needed another receiver, be it the Texan receivers are always pretty injured, and Will Fuller really can't stay on the football field. But giving up all of this for Tunsil is essentially handing him a contract and letting him write it in himself. I'm interested in seeing what Tunsil will end up getting paid. Now you fast forward to the Texans trading DeAndre Hopkins, the number 1 option and arguably the best receiver in the league. The Texans trade Hopkins and they get back David Johnson and a second-round pick. Unbelievable. Naturally, Deshaun Watson has to feel some type of way about this because I'm sure their relationship went far beyond the football field. And after all, this is your number 1 weapon. This is one of the best receivers in the game of football. Somebody who's been one of the best contested catch makers in the NFL. He makes Deshaun play at a higher level and also vice versa. Now, the Texans also did get a 4th-round pick for the following year, but again, let's take a look at returns that some other first-round receivers have gotten. You'll see players on this list that are way less talented, or at least less talented than Hopkins, go for much more. This is where Deshaun Watson's frustration comes in. He liked this cryptic tweet on Twitter from Tyler saying, "I'm just saying, you could do better. Tell me, have you heard that lately?" Now, these are Drake lyrics, and these lyrics could mean anything, but I think they're pretty telling of everything that has been going on within the Texans organization. It's clear that Bob and players cannot agree at times, and Bill O'Brien has been somewhat running this team into the ground. As a matter of fact, he's been completely running the Texans into the ground. Deshaun Watson, while he is the face of the franchise, the Texans have to make sure this guy is happy. It's so hard to find a good franchise quarterback in the NFL. So many teams spend so many years doing this, and the Texans are on the verge of blowing it because they have an abnormal level of confidence in Bill O'Brien. They're treating this guy like he's Bill Belichick times 5. Now, we also look at this tweet from Deshaun Watson, which is even more cryptic. Deshaun says, "I don't know how I'm gonna make it out of here clean. Can't even keep track of who plays for the other team. iconic duos rip and split at the seams. Hopkins was the face of the Texans, along with JJ Watt and Deshaun Watson. Hopkins has been a spectacular player on and off the field, and he's meant so much to the city of Houston. And this duo has meant so much to the city, the team. It's honestly shocking to see. With that being said, what do you guys think of everything that's going on? And are the Texans in danger of losing Deshaun Watson? Be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. You will not want to miss another Red Zone video.